All right, we're back. We've been talking about strings. In our last video, we got introduced to the equals method. It basically takes two strings to see if they are the same. Here's an example of the method in action. We have str with hello world, and I want to know, does that string str equal hello world? Yeah, they're identical. They have the same characters in the same order. Note that here in this example, str has the same characters, just not the same order. There's another note. It is case sensitive. Lowercase a is not the same as uppercase a, which is, by the way, why passwords, tend to require you to have an uppercase letter, because it makes it harder to crack the password. You effectively take your lowercase letters, there's only 26 of those, and you double the selection by adding another 26 capital letters, uppercase letters. Anyway, so showing that it is case sensitive, if I was to ask, is hello world with a lowercase h equal hello world with an uppercase h, we'd get back a false value. So that is how we compare strings. Don't ever use the equals relational operator to compare strings. You syntactically can. It just doesn't do what you think it does. We also learned about indexOf, which is how we can search through a string for another string, and it'll give us the index at which that occurs. Here in this example, we're looking through greeting for the index at which lowercase e occurs. Well, that's index 1. The exclamation mark occurs at index 12. The lowercase o, well, there's 2 of those, so we're going to look for the first occurrence. Because there's 2, we're going to get the o at index 4. If I look for world, keep in mind that this can look for an entire string. This will give me index 7. World does appear, and it appears starting right here. Okay. It is possible, since this can take in any string, that we can't find that string. And if that's the case, we'll get a -1. If I look for a lowercase s, well, there is no lowercase s, so we'd get back a -1. What I really like about this is that -1 is never going to be a valid index. That would normally be out of bounds. But here, it serves as an indicator that we can't find the string that you're looking for. If I try to find spaghetti, -1. Okay. This is case sensitive as well. So if I look for a lowercase h, we're going to get a -1. If I look for a lowercase world, we're going to get -1. And ultimately, we saw that indexOf is overloaded. So you could pass in a char. All the previous examples are using double quotes because we can pass in an entire string. But it's overloaded, so you can pass in a single char, and it's going to function the exact same. This is a char because we're using single quotes. It's going to function the exact same. We would get a index 7 because it does appear. And this is case sensitive like everything else we've talked about. So if I look for a lowercase w, the char, we'll get back a -1. So with that in mind, I want to knock out some coding bats. Oh, I thought I had it pulled up. Fat fingered. All right, under string 1, first one I want to look at is ends ly. Keep in mind the 2 new methods that we learned. I promise you all 4 coding bats will use those. It says, given a string, return true if it ends with ly. Okay, how do we do that? We basically want to take our string and see, are the last 2 characters ly? All right, so I'm going to take str, and I'm going to pull out the last 2 characters. We know how to do that from previous videos. We can pull out the last 2 characters using substring. I want to do a substring of str starting at the length -2. In this example up here, the length is 5. All right, so I'm saying 5 minus 2. That's going to give me an index of 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to start at this index and go through the rest of the string. Right, I'm using the overloaded version of substring. That's going to give me back 2 characters, which I'm going to save in a string. Right, I'm going to store those things into a nice clean variable so I know exactly what this is. This is going to be the last 2 characters from str. I want to know, are those characters equal to exactly ly? Okay. we know that we can use the equals method. So I want to know, do the last two characters equal ly exactly? This is going to give me back a true or false value, which is ultimately what I'm going to return. So I'm going to do this at the point of return. If I hit the go button, we got a lot of green, but we also got some red there. We got this going on. String index out of bounds exception. Okay, why? We take a look at the test case, and the string is just a y. They actually show that as a test case up here. If I look down at the other one that I got incorrect, it's a string with a length of 0. Okay, so we got issues here. Whenever I take this substring, if there's not at least 2 characters, I'm going to go out of bounds. Right? For this particular example, the string length is 1. So I'm doing 1 minus 2, getting a -1. I'm trying to take a substring beginning at -1. I'm already out of bounds. So I can basically only do this if there's enough characters to do that. How do I know? Well, I can check the string length, right? This was very successful when there's at least 2 characters. So I'm going to throw that into an if statement. If str.length is greater than or equal to 2, then I am okay to get the last 2 characters. I am okay to check to see, are those last 2 characters equal to ly. If I'm still here in the method, it means that this was false. And so I can just return false. Take a look. If our string length is less than 2, there's not enough characters to even cut a substring. So I'm just going to skip all of this and return false. If my string length is at least 2, then there's enough 2 characters to get the last 2 characters. It is possible, by the way, that the only 2 characters are the last 2 characters, which are ly. So we see that test case here. So that is a possibility. But if there's enough characters to cut the 2 character substring to get the last 2 characters, I'm going to do so. And then ask, do those equal ly? If you're looking to level up a little bit, this is messy and I would not do it, but I am saving this into a variable and I'm not doing anything else with a variable. That means we can just at the point of return get the last 2 characters, and you see this starts to get messy. I'm going to take a substring of str starting at the length -2. And I want to know, so what I have highlighted is a string. I want to know, is that string equal to ly? One advantage of doing this is that now I'm left with one statement in the if statement, so we can get rid of the braces. And so you end up with something that looks like this. Not necessarily clean, not necessarily readable, but we did reduce lines of code if that's your thing. I am a fan of the variable here, even if it is messy. I'm sorry, even if it is more lines. Okay, the next one I'm going to do is called has bad, which is not the next problem. Let's go back to our main menu, which, by the way, I just clicked the string 1. And it's going to boot me out, and we're going to click on has bad. Oh, sorry, there is something I want to show you with ends ly. I use the equals method in order to achieve this. You can technically check to see is the last 2 characters in ly using indexOf. Right, indexOf is going to look through the string for another string. So, for instance, I'm going to take str, do indexOf, looking for specifically ly. If it's not there, I'm getting a -1. If it's there, I'm going to get some type of index that's 0 or better. If the index that's returned from here is equal to the length -2, then that means that the last 2 characters are ly. So we're going to return this. What happened here? I may not be able to do this, but I did not think about this that much ahead of time. I just saw this and was like, oh, I bet you could do it with indexOf. What happened here? I'm supposed to return a false value, and I return true. Sneaky. Take a look. All right, I looked through str for ly, and I got back a -1 in this test case because there is no ly. Okay, the string length here in this example is 1. So -2 is -1. Does -1 equal -1? Yeah, so I'm getting a false positive when it should just be false. We can add in our stuff. If str.length is greater than or equal to 2, we can do this. Otherwise, we return false. Doesn't really save us that much. I'm really just showing you that you could use indexOf to solve this problem. Interesting. All right, string 1 has bad. Given a string, return true if bad appears starting at index 0 or 1 in the string, such as with bad xxx or x bad xx, but not xx bad xx. The string may be any length including 0. Note, equals can be used to compare two strings. I may skip over the equals solution and look at just doing 0 or 1. We can use equals. That's fine. If I'm going an equals route, what I want to do is basically take the first 3 characters and ask, are they equal to bad? I also want to take the next 3 characters and ask, do those equal bad? If either of them do, then yeah, we meet this weird stipulation where either it starts with bad or the next 3 are bad. Okay, so let's maybe get like the first 3 characters. How can I do that? I'm going to say string first 3 is equal to a substring of str beginning at index 0, and I'm not even going to think about the next index because what I know is that I want a string with a length of 3. So using our little rule of thumb, we can take the difference of the parameters, right? 3 minus 0 is 3. This string is going to have a length of 3, and I'm starting at index 0 in order to get it. This is getting the first 3 characters, right? It would be bad in this example. It would be xba in this example. It would be xxb in this example. It's the first 3 characters. I want to know, is that equal to, right? Does first 3 equal bad? That's going to be one of the questions I ask. Let's get the next 3. That is a substring of str beginning at index 1. I need it to be a length of 3. The difference in the parameters, we're looking at 4. Okay. I want to know, does that equal bad? Does next 3 equal bad? If either of these is true, then I can return true. That is, if this is equal to bad or this is equal to bad, I can return true. Otherwise, return false. Okay, we're going to have some problems here. We see we got some true statements, right? That works. That works. I got the correct thing here because that's not bad and that's not bad. I got the correct thing here because neither of those are bad. Here, I went out of bounds. What happened? Well, the string is just bad, so this is fine. I'm getting the first 3 characters. If you actually look at the error that we got, we went out of bounds at index 4, line 4, right? This is 1, 2, 3. That's this line. This line is going out of bounds. Why? Well, I'm trying to take a substring starting here and getting the next 3 characters. That's a problem. Okay, so we can break this up and kind of use some if statement checks. Right? If our string length is greater than or equal to 4, I am okay to get the next 3 characters. Right? There's at least 4 here, so I can get these 3. I really don't like going this route. If our string length is greater than or equal to 3, we can get the first 3 for sure. If first 3 is equal to bad, we can return true. If we're still here, then I can check the next 3, right? Because that means we got the first 3. We check to see if it's bad. If this is false, we're still here. If my str.length is greater than or equal to 4, I can get the next 3. I know there's going to be just a better solution to this. What I really want to do is the indexOf solution. And I'm kind of looking forward to that. So I'm going to get the next 3. If that is equal to bad, I'm going to return true. If I'm still here, I want to return false. Okay, so if we have at least 3 characters, I'm going to pull out the first 3. I'm going to see, are they equal to bad? If they are, I can return true, and we'll stop there. If I have at least 4 characters, I'm going to get the next 3. I'm going to ask, are those bad? If that's true, then I can return true, and we would leave. If we're still in the method, that means that none of this was true. That means the first 3 are not bad. The second 3, or the next 3 are not bad. I'm going to return false. And there is our correct solution. Now, this is going to be one where indexOf really helps us out. I'm going to delete all this. I'm going to look through str using indexOf. What I'm looking for is bad in particular. Not only is indexOf going to kind of indicate if it's there or not, it'll tell me exactly where it is. I want to know, does bad occur exactly at 0? Or does bad occur exactly at 1? If I get any other values other than 0 or 1, that's not what I want. I want them to appear either at 0 or at 1. Oh, that's so much better. All right, indexOf is doing all of the heavy lifting here, telling us not only, like, if bad is not even in the string, we're going to get back a -1, right? If bad appears at somewhere other than 0 or 1, we're going to get a different index, right? indexOf, for this particular string, when we look for bad, I'm going to get back index 2. 0, 1, 2. That's where bad occurs. When I look through this string for bad, I'm going to get back a 1. And if I look through this string for bad, we'll get back a index 0. Oof, that's so much better. All right, next one I want to look at is ccolor. Given a string, if the string begins with red or blue, return that color string. Otherwise, return an empty string. Here we've got one, red, so we return red. Here it ends with red. It's not exactly what we want, so we're going to return an empty string. Here it starts with blue, so we return blue. So if it begins with red or blue, we're going to return red or blue, depending. Okay, so this one's a much harder to do with equals because we got to, in this case, cut a 3-character string, but in this case, we're looking at a 4-character string. It's not impossible, but given what we just did with indexOf, I want to use indexOf again, right? I want to look through str using indexOf, looking for red. If I get back a 0, what that means is that str begins with red, right? This would give me a 0. So if this is true, I'm going to return not true, but red. Okay. I also want to consider looking through str for blue. If that gives me back a 0, I know that the string actually starts with blue. So I'm going to return blue. If I'm still here, that means it doesn't start with red, it doesn't start with blue. I'm going to return an empty string. And there it is. I really don't want to look at the equals solution to this. IndexOf does exactly what I want here. It gives me back a lot of information. Not only is it going to tell me, is it there or not, it's going to tell me exactly where it is. Right. Last one I want to do is called front again. Given a string, return true if the first two chars in the string also appear at the end of the string, such as with ed, edited, right? We got ed at the beginning, we got ed at the end, so that's true. Edit, we got ed at the beginning, not so much at the end. Okay. This one's not bad with equals, but indexOf also gets us there. We'll do an equals solution. Right. What I want to know is let's get the first two characters. How do I do that? Using substring. I'm going to go into str and I'm going to get the first two characters as a string. I want to know, are the last two equal to that? How do I get the last two? We can pull those out also using substring. All right. The index I'm going to begin at is the length minus 2. So this will give me the last two characters. I simply want to know, is the first two equal to the last two? Uh-oh. Went out of bounds. What happened here? Well, did they tell me? They didn't tell me. All right. We found out the hard way. The strings can be of any length, apparently. We can have a length of 1, a length of 0, at which point we're getting index out of bounds. Why? Here I'm trying to get the first two characters. Here I'm trying to get the last two characters when there aren't two characters at all. We can do this stuff if the string has at least two characters. So if my string is at least two characters, I'm going to get the first two. I'm going to get the last two. I'm going to return, are those two things equal? If I'm still here, we didn't even have two characters, so there's no way that the first and last two could be the same, so we'll return false. That'll handle the pesky little length thing. Now, if you're referring back to some old problems, here where it says first two, that can be that. Here where it says last two, that can be that. Oh, that's messy. But it works. You can get rid of those. You can get rid of this, since there's only one statement now. And we end up with a lot less lines, but is it more elegant? Is it more readable? It's technically more efficient because we're not using variables. But this is the first two characters. And I'm asking, are those two characters? Keep in mind that substring returns string. What I have highlighted is a string. So I'm asking, is that string equal to this other string? Okay. So let's take a look at an indexOf solution. I'm interested in the first two characters still. Right? I'm going to pull those first two characters out. We're going to have length issues, I know. But I'm just backtracking my thinking. We're going to pull out the first two characters. I want to know... Oh, no, we can't use... You can't use indexOf. Now that I'm thinking about it. Right? Because what happens if I look for ed in this string? Right? So let's say that I get the first two characters, ed. All right, let's say that I look through edited for ed. Well, when I do that search using indexOf, it's going to give me the first occurrence, which is right here, which doesn't tell me anything. Right? If I take the first two characters out of edit, again, ed, and I do an indexOf, it's going to give me the first occurrence, which is index 0 right here. So I'm going to take all this back. You can't use indexOf. you can use something called last index of. Not something I actually talk about per se in this course. But if we go take a look at the string API, here's the whole list of methods. I just mentioned last index of. Okay. I'm not asking that you know this. I am asking that you maybe think outside the box a little bit. Maybe use the string API from time to time. Last index of is the exact same thing as index of, except you get the last occurrence. Okay. Simply put, all it does is that when you use last index of, instead of searching from the front, right? Keep in mind that people program these methods. They're just using the same tools that you have, things like loops, right? What we're doing, what index of is doing, is it's searching through the string. In the case of ed, right, it's asking, is this ed? 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 That's what index of is doing. In the moment that it finds a match, it stops, it returns the location that it's currently at. We're going to be doing this kind of stuff very soon. What last index of does is it starts at the other end. Is this ed? Is this ed? Is this ed? Going this way. That's yet again a loop. So last index of ends up giving you the last occurrence, and it works the exact same way as index of. Okay, how does this help me? I'm going to get the first two characters as a substring. Again, I know I'm going to have out of bounds issues with this. I'm going to get the first two characters as a substring. And then using last index of, I'm going to search through str. What am I searching for? The first two characters. In this example, the first two characters are ed. Right? So let's say that str is edited. When I do the first two, what I'm getting here is just ed. What I'm going to do now is search through edited. I want to know, does edited last index of, what are we searching for? We're searching for ed. So I'm doing edited last index of ed. Using this as an example, this is what we're doing so far. This is going to search through edited, but it's going to begin towards the end. And what we'd end up getting is this index here. Right? We would get starting right here. What index is that? That's 0, 1, 2, 3. That's index 4. Okay, how do I know that that is at the end? Last index of, in this example, would give me back a 4. But how do I know that is the end? That index is the length of the string minus the length of the string that I'm looking for. This has a length of 6. The string that I'm looking for has a length of 2. 6 minus 2 will give me 4. That is the index at which it occurs. Okay. So this is going to spit back out a 4. I want to know, does that 4 equal the string that I'm looking through, dot length, minus the string that I'm looking for, dot length. I'm going to get rid of these comments. I am getting the first two characters. I'm going to look through our string for those first two characters. I'm getting back an index. I want to know, does that index equal the length of the string that I was looking through minus the length of the string I was looking for? If that is true, I'm going to return true. If it is false, I'll return a false value. We're going to have index out of bounds issues. But notice the cases where I got it right. The index out of bounds are not related to index of, by the way, or in this case, last index of. The index out of bounds issues are because of the substring. So I can only cut that 2-character substring if str.length is greater than or equal to 2. Otherwise, if I'm here, if I manage to make it to this point in my code, that means there weren't even 2 characters to worry about. I'm going to return false. All right. Is this better? Probably not. But we did manage to use just a different approach involving a method that we haven't talked about yet, but it's so similar to indexOf that this is just something to be like, yeah, I get this. That's probably a good spot for us to pause, and I'll see you in the next one.